One spot has been claimed in the national championship for the 2024 NCATA National Championship weekend, and the other on the line here in Joe Retton Arena between the 4th-seeded Oregon Ducks and the #1 Baylor Bears. Let's take a look at the bracket here and where we stand. As you can see, the Gannon Golden Knights in the 3 spot, pulling an upset over the Quinnipiac Bobcats. Now we await the other entrant in this one. So glad you could join us here this evening on ESPN+. I am Colin Kirkwood. She is Aaliyah Stark. And Aaliyah, it's going to be a battle of 2 powerhouses here this evening.
It really will. You see these 2 teams compete against each other a lot throughout the regular season, but also the postseason in the past.
This is a pair of teams that have met twice so far here, but in the meantime, why don't we take a look at how Gannon found their way into the national championship. You can see across the board here, it was a close one throughout the entirety, 266 to 265, but the Golden Knights heading back to the national championship for the first time since 2022.
Super exciting. You see that team routine score really pull them through.
We'll take a look here at the lineups for both of these squads.
Raquel Henderson, sophomore, Tumbler, Katy, Texas. Bethany Buick, junior, top, Trabuco Canyon, California. Bradley Hoover, junior, base, Discovery Bay, California. Mari Fukutami, sophomore, top, in Bellevue, Washington. Bella Swarthout, freshman, base, and Paso Robles, California. Morgan Hood, sophomore, base tumbler, Missouri City, Texas. Emily Risner, freshman, base tumbler from Corona, California. Bryn Mortimer, freshman, tumbler, in Southampton, Pennsylvania. Riley Watson, junior, top and tumbler, Round Rock, Texas. Rachel Furlong, junior, tumbler, Worcester, Ohio. Italy Machiavello, senior, base, Marietta, California. Ava Gowdy, sophomore, base, Los Altos, California. Sayla Bell, a freshman, top and tumbler in Brentwood, Tennessee. Emma Keogh, senior, top and a tumbler, Red Bank, New Jersey. Alexis Jardina, junior, base top tumbler from San Jose, California. Mallory Kent, senior, tumbler, The Woodlands, Texas. Shea Barnes, sophomore, base tumbler, Simi Valley, California. McKenna Carrion, senior, top, Rossmore, California. Kaylin Niebergall, senior, base, Hillsboro, Oregon. Haley Barrera, senior, top base tumbler, Sonoma, California. Camille Montalani, senior, tumbler, Petaluma, California. Logan Davis, freshman, tumbler, Las Vegas, Nevada. Cammy Wilson, senior, base, Los Angeles, California. Katie Keogh, senior, top base tumbler, Red Bank, New Jersey. Charlotte Lipa, sophomore, base, Austin, Texas. Emily Henningsen, senior, base, Snohomish, Washington. Genesis Mitchell, freshman, base tumbler, Pedo, Texas. Nia Hewitt, sophomore, base, Wales, United Kingdom. Kristen McCain, senior, tumbler, Houston, Texas. Charlie Tenby, sophomore, top and tumbler, San Antonio, Texas. Gabby Kaminsky, freshman, top and tumbler, Concord, North Carolina. Gigi Randino, freshman, base and tumbler, I'm from Brookfield, Connecticut. Emily Bott, freshman, top and tumbler, Long Island, New York. Peyton Washington, freshman, top and tumbler from Austin, Texas. Brenna Cotner, senior, top tumbler, Katy, Texas. Adelaide Bezzosi, junior, top, Brick, New Jersey. Allie Joswick, senior, top tumbler, Plainfield, Illinois. Aaliyah Thomas, sophomore, top tumbler, Worcester, Pennsylvania. Mariah Polk, junior, base tumbler, Dallas, Georgia. Gianna Cameron, sophomore, base tumbler, South Charleston, Ohio. Dalen Hopkins, freshman, top and tumbler, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Savannah Cecil, sophomore, top tumbler, Crossville, Tennessee. Zoe Collins, senior, base, Newark, Delaware. Addie Grandy, junior, base, Niceville, Florida. Novalee Schmidt, sophomore, base and tumbler, Lincoln, Nebraska. Bradley Chamala, senior, base, Plano, Texas. Jordan Grendler, junior, top, San Antonio, Texas. Bailey Humphrey, senior, base, Chandler, Arizona. Morgan Brown, junior, base, Charlotte, North Carolina. Ellie Lanieve, sophomore, base, Allen, Texas. Johnny Branch, freshman, base, Carmel, Indiana. Meredith Wells, sophomore, base tumbler, Highland Village, Texas. Kinsey Sholub, sophomore, base, Houston, Texas.
Raquel Jeffries, juniors, tumbler and top, Canton, Ohio.
Bailey Bond, junior, base, from Lakeway, Texas.
Ali Palustian, junior, tumbler, Phoenix, Arizona.
You can see both teams eagerly awaiting their chance to step out. We'll see the compulsory event to kick things off first, but these are two teams that are very familiar with each other.
They are. They see each other a lot. They see each other in the regular season, typically twice. They saw each other twice in the regular season this year. And then in the championship, you know, they usually play each other in the tournament. They played each other last year in the national tournament, claiming that title. So they do compete against each other a lot. So they're going to have emotion, but a little bit of comfortability almost.
Baylor winning both of those matchups this year. Why don't we take a look here before we get into that, deeper into event number 1.
The first event is the compulsory event. The compulsory event consists of 4 heats: an acro heat, a pyramid heat, a toss heat, and a tumbling heat. These skills for the compulsory event represent the basic skills of the sport of acrobatics and tumbling. In this event, each team will execute the same skills for direct comparison. Each heat begins with a starting value of 10, and the officials will be looking for execution, body positions, and stability of structures.
This is Oregon in the midst here as they've kicked themselves off early. They find themselves in the acro. Start value of 10 to kick off their campaign here. Had registered a 9-4-5 yesterday. That was in their win over Mary Hardin Baylor in the 4-5 matchup. You're going to need a strong start in a meet like this, and I think that's a great way to do so.
So as a coach, compulsory acro is always the most nerve-wracking event, not only as a coach, but as an athlete. You just want to get it out of the way. So Oregon did a good job. You see this toe pitch here, very strong, a little bit of a stability on that right side. Looking for height of skill on these tuck-offs, a difference between the two, but this 5-person officiating panel, they will decide the score. See Bethany Glick there, a top for Oregon. Executed that straddle hold and that pop over to the inversion well. And you're looking for extension from the bases here, making sure that core is strong, the elbows, the shoulders, all of it nice and stable all the way through. Then going into this switch up and then the full down from an arabesque, looking for body positions, stability from the bases, making sure there's no steps. And you see a little bit of deviation on the full downs. As it's a twisting skill, you're always going to have a little bit of deviation, unfortunately. But it was a very strong first heat.
The answer coming from Baylor, they'll find themselves with a start value of 10, picking up a 9-6-5 yesterday. That was in their victory in the 1-8 matchup over Fairmont State, which you might have saw in the bracket earlier. Fairmont State, the host here, second time they've hosted the national championships. This is a Baylor side that always comes out with high energy to start themselves off, and doing exactly that for the defending national champs.
And they had a really strong showing. On that toe pitch, you really saw the height of skill. I'll say that's one of Baylor's specialties, is they, whether it's at shoulder level, at extended, no matter where it comes from, they make sure to accentuate that height of skill and make sure to get a full extension. Both of these tops had a good straddle hold, good pop over to inversion, a little bit of synchronization there. Again, these officials, they're looking, there's 5 of them, so they are seeing everything. And it's important to note that all these different angles that we get to see on the live stream, they're different from what the officials are really looking at.
We had touched on this briefly yesterday, but Baylor winning their first title in program history right here in 2015, and that was also Felicia Mulkey's first season at the helm. She's hiding back there. You can see her on the left side.
And I'll give myself a little shout out. Fun fact, I competed against them at that meet at Alderson Broaddus University. So I remember that was really their first year coming out really strong at Baylor.
Oregon moving us forward now. They're a pyramid with a start value of 10, registering a 9.625 yesterday. They are welcome back to their side with open arms.
They're definitely excited because that was a strong compulsory pyramid. You're going to make sure that you have continuity on that toss-up, pulling out to a good straddle position above 180 degrees. I think what they did really well there is you saw the height of skill on that flip-off, that straddle pop over to that cradle position. You really saw their hips rise. They went up first, and then the catchers really catch strong at the bottom, and that's an important piece to our sport is those catchers. You know, it might not be what the crowd is focusing on, but those officials have a lot of catch deductions that they can take from.
Next up again will be Baylor. They found themselves with a 9.8 yesterday.
Acrobatics and tumbling is such a fun sport because you get to see the big personalities come out on everybody's sidelines, but you see number 45 there, Bailey Humphrey, excited and cheering on her team.
With their start value again of 10. About as textbook as it gets.
It is. You see on that toss-up, you see big extension from the tossers. So as we watch this replay, really look at those tossing bases, where they finish and how fast they finish. A very good straddle hold. And again, same thing with from Oregon. You saw the height of skill. And I think both two teams really differentiate themselves there. And then the strong catch. And with Baylor, this is a little bit of a new regime because they graduated 2 All-American tops that were in all of these compulsory events together. So it's exciting to see them, you know, accelerate their program and dig into their roster.
It's more of a reload, if you will, than rebuild scenario. Taylor Susanara there, you can see her on your screen, head coach of Oregon, quiet confidence.
Taylor Susanara was a standout athlete in this sport, so it's so fun to watch her coach.
Moving right along into the toss now, a 9.65 yesterday for Oregon. Again, a start value here of 10. Up and down with relative ease, I would say.
Definitely. Looking on the left side, I want you guys to notice, when the toss event especially, they're looking for height of skill, but in those synchronized events, you're really looking to match the height on each top, so making sure that they look identical. You see the left toss looked a little bit different on that height, so that'll be a little bit of a deduction. And then on that catch, a little bit of movement on those bases. Again, those catch deductions, there's a couple of them that the judges can take.
Great look at it here again. You can really put the magnifying glass up. Yeah, you could see towards the toes there.
Yes, just a little funky on the way through, but nothing, you know, too extreme. It won't affect their execution score too much.
The addition coming up next from Baylor. Baylor with a 9-1 yesterday. There is Felicia again. And a start value here of 10. Expect to see some high marks later on here from this Baylor side.
So you're going to see two tops, Peyton Washington, who's a freshman, and then number 20, Aaliyah Thomas, who's a sophomore. So again, young tops here. You see them really rise. That height of skill is definitely there. Again, nitpicking, they might not have been identical, so that'll be reflected in the score and where those deductions come from. But that kick out, that is where you want that kick out to happen. You want that extension on the cradle, and they did a great job over-exaggerating it.
Final portion of the first coming up from Oregon. Registered an 8.875 yesterday. Start value again of 10 for the Ducks.
In compulsory tumbling, there's 8 athletes synchronizing 4 skills. So that's where that execution score kind of takes a dip, because there's a lot of things going on for the judges to look at.
A lot of moving parts. Now take us through that here.
So the big thing on compulsory tumbling and all of our tumbling events is having the extension into that standing tuck and into all of your skills, not taking any extra steps. You want to stick the landing. So you saw a couple steps there. In between the toe touch to the back tuck, you want to see your feet back together. So I did see a couple of them with feet apart. They'll get deducted there. Same with this back handspring, feet together. They did keep them glued, but you're seeing just a couple little extra steps here and there that are going to draw the judges' eyes. So that's something to keep in mind when that score comes out. And then for this layout, you want to see height of skill. You want to see all the athletes look identical to each other, and to be in that extended layout body position with no bend at the hips.
Now, you say it's common to see a lot of score deductions here, but on the Baylor side yesterday, a 9-1 they registered out of 10. It's just simply a squad that's very hard to find flaws with.
Definitely. As a coach, you're excited if that compulsory tumbling score comes in above a 9.0, because again, there's those 8 athletes needing to look identical. And Baylor has always been known for their tumbling being really dynamic and really powerful. So in compulsory tumbling, it's almost kind of hard for them to be able to scale that down and stick all of their landings and finding the technique to do it.
They will close out event number 1 once they get their signal. enjoying their time over there, they are. It looks like now they can close out the first. Talk about execution.
Most definitely. So those standing tucks, I think almost every athlete stuck it. And that's a really big piece. You saw a little bit of a bobble on the left there. So that is an extra deduction, which is extra movement on landing. Those toe touches were very high, above 180 degrees, bringing their feet back together. Most of them did. And again, their score will reflect that. Again, a couple extra steps or hops, but not everybody took them. So that's what's really important, is having those core athletes really stick those skills.
Make sure you stick around here. The acro event coming up next here on ESPN+. Let's take a deeper dive here into event number 2 as these teams wait.
The second event is the acro event. This marks the beginning of the optional portion of the meet. Each team will compete with skills previously chosen with different possible start values. There will be between 2 and 4 athletes in a group on the floor in each of the 3 heats. Heat 1 has 5 elements, Heat 2 has 6 elements, and Heat 3 has 7 elements. The start value is determined by the difficulty and combination of each skill. In addition, each position must be held for 3 seconds. This event demonstrates power, strength, and balance.
Soon to have our scores from event number 1. And we'll see where we stand after 1. I don't think there's going to be a huge margin here.
And that's
if I were to look into my crystal ball, I should say.
That's what's fun about the compulsory event, is every heat starts from that 10.0 start value. So every team is competing that across the board. Once we get into the other events, the acro, pyramid toss, tumbling, and team events, you're going to see the start values fluctuate, especially in that second half. So we're going to see Baylor with a 0.56 start value advantage throughout the entire meet total, which is not a big advantage.
Looks like we've got them now. Take a deeper dive. As expected, I would think that that shapes up the way that we might have thought it would.
So you're going to see both teams got a relatively high compulsory acro score, but you see really Baylor pull apart in those pyramid toss and tumbling rounds.
A lot of 9s yesterday for Baylor, some high 9s at that, and seeing an 8-9 towards the bottom after getting a 9-1 a day ago. But still, lots of time left here in this one for the defending champs to, I don't even need to say regain their footing, but polish up a bit, if you will, perhaps.
And day 2 is hard. Day 2 is mentally taxing, physically taxing. By day 3, you're just excited to be in the national championship. But day 3 is really where you test your mental strength.
Here is Oregon. The 5 element yesterday, a 9-8. They come in again with a start value of 10. We'll see if they can recreate that performance. say it's about on par of what they were looking for there.
Definitely. So number 36 top, McKenna Carrion. She was a 2023 All-American last year for Oregon and has had a successful career at Oregon. You're going to see not a lot of bobbles from the bases, so that's what's really important, especially at shoulder level, is making sure that those bases are solid, that there's no movement underneath, and that those feet are glued to the ground. And then on that full off, you want to see extension, you want to see height of skill, making sure that it really accelerates over the base's head, and then having a strong landing, which she definitely executed. Then going into this inversion, making sure there's no movement from top to bottom. You know, those top's feet, they want to be in line with their base's feet, well, even though they're upside down. So they did a good job executing there.
You can see back on February 25th, that was Baylor across the board. But look at Oregon with a solid mark there in that pyramid portion. But the Bears are always just a tough side to beat.
So you see there at the bottom, that team routine score really brought them close. And that's where, or separated the gap, I should say. And that's what we saw earlier today in the first matchup, is team routine can really dictate, you know, that final score of the meet.
There is the Baylor side. Another start value of 10.
And we're going to see Peyton Washington. We saw her earlier, but she is a freshman top. So you don't see a lot of freshman top compete, you know, in multiple rounds of play, given how, you know, different this sport is from where they're coming from. So when they do it, it's very impressive.
Five element for the Bears yesterday was a 9-9. And that appears to be a very solid addition again.
I'm excited to watch the replay and knock you guys through it because I do not have a lot of deductions. You see that extended handstand. There is only one base, Riley Chimwala, former NCATA All-American. She is holding that, and without any balance, she is very strong underneath it. Very minimal deductions, I would say, throughout that entire heat.
There's a 9-9 like we said yesterday, and pretty darn close to that there again.
You see that extension from Riley. She is a wonderful base, and she's a wonderful example of what that extension is supposed to look like. From that core, from those shoulders, really being tall throughout the entire skill and never letting anything, you know, slack or lean down.
We'll see the 6 element coming up next for Oregon. Another great look at that. It's a 9-9 start value here for Oregon. And we talk about how strong Baylor has been. You can see there on your screen all the way back to 2019. And just to even add on to that, as the last time that Baylor even lost a meet was 2021, and that was against these Oregon Ducks. Was a 9.0 performance yesterday. And off they go.
So you saw 2 tops there. Number 36, McKenna Carrion, number 7, Mari Fukutomi. And they did a really good job accelerating and accentuating those skills and those lines. You see a little bit of stability on these bases on the first portion and the second portion. So that's really what the officials are going to be looking for. But they kept these skills under control. And these are not easy skills to execute and to connect together. You see that step there? That will be a deduction, yes. You're really looking for height of skill, extension. You don't want to see those tops twist early. You want to make sure their hips rise, their arms are square, so that they don't deviate from their base and they get the full height that they need. Good extension there. I would say their synchronization throughout the entire heat was really good, and that's something that the officials are looking for in those synchronized heats, like the 6 element.
6 element for Baylor, a 9.65 yesterday. And a start value of 10.
Something unique about 6 element is it didn't always used to be synchronized. This was new last year in the 2023 season. So this is the second season where 6 element has been 2 groups synchronizing, and it's added a challenge. It's a lot of strategy. And that's where some teams are going to start below that 10.0, because you have to find 2 groups that can do the same exact skill set well together.
Loved a bit of flair there from the bench.
They're always so full of personality.
Walk us through that now as they jump their way off.
That was a phenomenal 6 element. You're going to see them compete skills that are hard. You see on that left side, you know, maybe a little bit of lack of height on that walk-in 180 to shoulders. But here up to that extended handstand, those are hard with just 2 bases, let alone 1 base. And those tops are identical to each other. So that is really what you're looking for. And that's the flair that we're talking about. You know, Coach Felicia Mulkey, she loves letting them have personality and individuality. But these skills are really hard to execute. You know, looking at our start value system, you know, to get to a 10.0, you have to connect together really advanced skills to get those bonuses. So that's what gets them up to that 10.0. And if you were to look at the start value system for Baylor, most of their acros actually start well above a 10. They don't stop themselves at a 10. They are always pushing to the next level.
Seven element coming up next. Another start value this time again of 10 for Oregon. Yesterday's value of a 9.45.
They're going to definitely try to look to bring that execution score up a little bit. But 7 element is by far the hardest heat to score a 10.0 in this acro
There's
event.
a lot that goes into it.
There is, and you have to do it in 45 seconds. So all 7 elements have to be held for 3 seconds. In under 45 seconds, there's a clock. The athletes know what's going on.
Oregon closing out event 2 on their side.
You see the personality there. They are excited. So I talked about this with Baylor, that 1-man extended handstand and how hard it is to do that with only 1 base. And you see top Bethany Glick here. She's going to press up from that straddle and then press back down. And you see that base remains extended all the way through. You're going to see shaking, but that's actually balanced. So the judges aren't going to look at that as really lack of stability. If they do, it's very, very small, because they know when there's only 1 base, they're going to have to be able to balance with each other. The toe pitch there was good. A little bit of lack of height. You really want to see them to extend up. But again, those are small little deductions, and they're going to score well on that one.
Next up here for the Baylor Bears. Again, a start value of 10 and just about perfect the last time around yesterday, a 9.925.
And both of these teams in 7 element, you only see a base and a top. So it's only really 2 athletes competing all 7 skills. So that's very impressive from both teams. We're going to see top Jordan Grunler and base Bailey Humphrey. They are definitely known in our sport right now for their acrobatic skill set that they've been elevating and bringing. And then you've seen other teams really catch on after and really elevating that skill set in the acro event.
And yesterday's rendition of this was something to behold. And if we are in for the exact same, if not better here, just sit back and enjoy this one. This right here.
And you are
the flare.
You are not seeing that from any other team.
I would venture to say that that could be even better than a 9.925.
And so you're seeing Jordan Grunler. She was the NCATA Division I Specialist of the Year in 2023. And then Bailey Humphreys was named
going to say, it
NCATA
helps when you have support like that.
Oh my gosh, look at that. They are strength, they are strong, they are stable. You don't see a lot of movement there. And make no joke, those skills are hard, and they have not been competed for very long in our sport. So it's been really exciting to see these two just bring a different level to the acro event. And again, like I said, other teams have been really catching on to that.
Event 3 coming up next here after this break. Stay tuned on ESPN+. Scores making their way in from event number 2. And again, a 9.8 there from Baylor in their closing performance. Boy, you must have really had to dial in there for that. Wow.
And those officials, they're looking at so many different things. So they know what they're doing, that 5-panel official. There's a lot of eyes, whereas in the regular season, you see 3 officials. But you see Baylor, they swept all 3 heats. They are a strong acro event team, and they definitely take a little bit of a jump there by almost 2 points.
You can see them getting some more scores on the way through and enjoying the success to this point in time. There's those judges again.
And they're just catching their breath right now. They have had a long 2 days, and so it'll be nice for them.
This is the 6th meet in 2 days for those keeping track at home.
It'll be nice for them to go into just 1 meet tomorrow with that national championship.
The inversion heat for the pyramid event coming up here. A start value of 10 for Oregon. They racked up a 9.8 a day ago. It was in a rare Division I versus Division III matchup here in the first day of the national championships. You can actually see their opponent yesterday in Mary Hardin Baylor. They're taking in the action up in the rafters on the far side. Of course, they are cheering for all, but they've been showing a lot of support for their in-state program friend, if you will, Baylor.
And a strong pyramid there by Oregon. But to touch on University of Mary Hardin Baylor, their head coach, Rafael Escato, that you saw coach that meet yesterday, she is a Baylor alumni, graduating just a few years ago. So there's strong ties there. But here we see this replay. We've seen a lot of teams go from that handstand from the shoulders. Bethany Glick presses up with only one base underneath, with only 3 bases supporting. And they did a very good job. A little bit of extra, like little bounce on that catch. So that's where you want to see no additional movement. So they'll see that little minor deduction in their final score, but it was a great heat.
Baylor with a start value of 10 will jump ahead shortly. Picked up a 9.75 a day ago in their first edition.
It's important to note, there's a lot of different rules that go into the sport of acrobatics and tumbling. In the pyramid event, you're seeing this first heat. Both teams have to compete in inverted elements, so they have to be in that handstand position, whether it's in an inversion or a 2-hand handstand, even a 1-hand handstand, which we've seen before. The second heat, you're seeing it synchronized, so 2 groups have to compete the exact same skill set and look identical, and then there's that open optional heat.
Off they go after another strong outing.
So let's be clear, Baylor does not have to compete this pyramid, as did Oregon. With that 10.0 start value, this could score well over a 10, but they do it to really showcase the skill set of these 2 unique athletes. And there is no movement under it. I don't see a lot of deductions at my eye. And those 2 judges, they know what they're doing, but that strong catch, they'll get a high score on that.
Strength is just simply unmatched. What a great look at this here.
Wow.
One-handed and all.
Don't try that at home.
That's right. And if you are, maybe try to get yourself a mattress, some pillows to put underneath there, just in case. We don't recommend that, though.
Give yourself a cushion.
Synchronized on the way here for the Ducks. Again, there you can see the start value of 10. 9.575 was yesterday's margin. Off they go.
That was a strong pyramid. You want to see these mid-levels extend through their body when they push the tops overhead into that overhead position, in that 1-man position, making sure elbows are fully extended, that there's no gap in those shoulders, so you see them really pushing tall, and making sure their core is strong. You see it's continuous all the way through. They stayed square on the dismount. It was a strong synchronized pyramid heat for those Ducks. I believe we're going to see a very similar, if not identical, pyramid from Baylor when they come out. So you'll be able to really compare and see the different styles between the 2 teams, because every coach has a different strategy, a different technique that they coach their team with. So you see that a lot in the second half. First half, you know, you see more of that individuality and skills.
Next edition coming here shortly from Baylor. Start value again of 10. The 9.7 yesterday was their score line.
So you're seeing these 2 bases a lot. Bailey Humphreys and Riley Chimwala. They've both been NCATA All-Americans multiple times in the past, you know, and they've really held their ground this year. But they are 2 seniors for the program.
routine, it seems, at this point.
And you see that little bear paw at the top there, that individual personality. This was really strong. As they transition over, the judges are still looking at synchronization, even though they're just switching their feet over. So I see a little bit of synchronization there. That'll be a little deduction. Again, we're looking for that extension on the bases, keeping that core aligned the entire way through, which they did. And then they controlled that landing down with those catchers, so it was strong. Again, those are two identical pyramids, so it'll be interesting to see what the judges come away with.
Open coming up next for Oregon. Start value of 10, a 9.725 yesterday.
And we're going to see top McKenna carry on, number 36. We've seen her a lot already throughout this meet. You know, she's a senior for the Oregon Ducks, so she's carried around a lot of, you know, weight and played in a lot of rounds and plays in her career. So she's experienced, and they know they can lean on her.
A good way there to close out their first half.
I love the pyramid event because it really showcases the different skill sets of all the different athletes on the team and all the different sports disciplines that we recruit from. So in this heat, you see that bridge pyramid. That's really an acrobatic style pyramid. You see that pike hold, really taught at a young age in gymnastics. I'd say a very clean pyramid all the way through. She gets up to the top fast, beautiful pike position. Coming through, though, on the way down, a little bit of an under twist. So she doesn't finish that full 360 all the way. Small, minor deduction from those officials that they're going to be looking at.
We'll now see Baylor step through shortly, a 9.85 yesterday. And again, start value of 10 for the Bears.
You're going to see Baylor compete something very similar, if not identical, again. So in the first half, especially in this pyramid event, we've been seeing them, you know, very similar to each other, and they're going to pull away a little bit in that second half, competing different skills from these two teams. But again, that comes from the different backgrounds of the athletes. So acrobatics and tumbling, it really recruits from acrobatic gymnastics, artistic gymnastics, competitive cheerleading, high school cheerleading, diving, power tumbling.
There's a lot to choose from.
There is. So we do a really good job of allowing all these athletes to showcase their skill set.
Brings the first half to a close with a exclamation point from the Baylor Bears.
What a great body position there in that pike. You see Riley Chimwala, that mid-level base, very strong, very extended, not a lot of deductions there.
Stick with us here. We've hit the halfway point between Baylor and Oregon right here on ESPN+. At the half here between Baylor and Oregon as we wait to find out who will advance to the national championship tomorrow to face Gannon. But in the meantime, here at Matt's side, we have the head coach of the Baylor Bears, Felicia Mulkey, joining us. Felicia, as always, thank you for your time.
Sure, thanks for having me.
So it's no secret you guys have been on a huge run dating all the way back to 2021 as losses have been hard to come by. But of course, Oregon being that last team,
Right.
when you see them, is that something perhaps that maybe pops into the back of your mind?
Honestly, I don't realize that they tell me all the time the winning streak, and I truly do not know. I just love competing against Oregon. I have a lot of respect for Taylor and their program. She does a fantastic job, and they have done so well this year, and we played them at the beginning. We always get to play them at the beginning of the season and the end, and it's just always so much fun to compete against them. I feel like both sides really bring the best out, you know, of themselves. So we get up and we get excited every time. So I don't think about that. So thanks for reminding me. But yeah, I don't pay attention to the win streak, truly.
And is there anything that you're telling the team going into halftime? I know they have such fun personality, but is there anything else to it?
Well, tell them to chill out every once in a while. When you see us go into the huddle, a lot of times it's like, hey, let's get back here. Like right before Pyramid event, we were having a serious talk. And we finished, and they could not wait to get away from me because Cotton Eye Joe was on, I think. And so they went to their dance. But you know what? That's what it's all about. They have fun out here, but they're living their best life over here. And it's all about the experience, right? That's going to be what they remember, not the wins and losses. It's the fun that they had with their team.
Of course. I love that.
Yeah.
Talk about the second half here for your team. What should we look forward to?
Ooh, we're going to try to do toss-event again. How about that? Did you remember yesterday? I told you.
Yeah.
I was as surprised as you were at our tosses. They've been working really hard. Aaliyah, you know. We've been working really hard on tosses, and they showed up yesterday. I was so proud of them, so we want to do that. And then we're going to show up in tumbling today. We did not show up like we wanted to yesterday in tumbling, so I hope you see that. I hope you see a really clean team event because that's something that we talked about too. But I'm sure you'll see a lot more dancing and a lot more fun on the sideline as well.
We'll look forward to that, but thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me. Thanks.
We'll step aside here. More coming up here at the half on ESPN+.
Love you.
Halftime here between Baylor and Oregon. One of these two will face off against Gannon tomorrow in the national championship. But another guest joining us here, Matt Side on ESPN+. This is Tracy Cowan, the committee chair of USA Gymnastics. Tracy, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
So first off here, let's talk about USA Gymnastics sponsoring a developmental program for acrobatics and tumbling. Can you talk about how that prepares young women to step into this sport?
Sure. So at USA Gymnastics, we're competing levels 1 through 4. So basically that means at 5 years old, you can kind of grow up in the sport.
Okay.
And then we go all the way to level 4, which would be our athletes that are getting ready to go into college.
Sure.
So if they grow up in the sport, then they're ready as soon as they get into college. They understand acrobatics and tumbling. They're not coming from, like, I coach gymnastics as well, so they have kind of a curve, a learning curve where they have to come in. These guys are already doing it. At our level 4, we've adopted the meet format for collegiate, so they're already doing all the compulsory things. So they're kind of ahead of the game in that sense that they understand what's going to happen in the next 4 years.
And what has the growth looked like over the years, and where do you see the future of the youth acrobatics and tumbling program going?
So I am super excited about that. This year, I just talked with Heather over there, and we've doubled on the recruiting side of it.
Great.
So currently across the country, we have about 415 acrobatic and tumbling athletes that are solely acrobatic and tumbling athletes, and we're expecting to be at least 600. I'm hoping, we've had a lot of phone calls and a lot of interest just coming into this beat that we have, this National Invitational for the youth as well. So we're seeing that kind of explode year by year. So we're looking for about 20 teams next year with about 600 athletes.
So tell us a little bit more here about having a youth invitational take place nearby this weekend, and what exactly does that really mean?
So for our athletes, that's like incredible because they're actually sitting like in the mecca of acrobatics and tumbling. So the recruiting opportunities are huge. And I think we have, they said we doubled our recruitable athletes this year. So those athletes are going to be actually competing in front of several of the college coaches. And then they come over here for another recruiting event. So as far as recruiting is concerned, this is like the place to be. And so, and getting these little guys, if you look, from 5 years old on up, they're super excited because they're seeing these older athletes and going, hey, this is where I want to be.
I can do this. I can get to this.
Absolutely. Yeah. Carrying the little posters, having their favorite athletes. It's really cool to watch them do that.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Tracy. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll step aside here. When we come back, we'll hear from the head coach of Oregon after the break here on ESPN+. Waiting around for the second half here, Matt Side joining us, the head coach of the University of Oregon, Taylor Susanara. Taylor, thank you again for your time as always.
Thank you so much.
So you guys are starting to become a bit of rivals here towards the other side of the United States. You see Baylor a lot, so talk about what it's like to see them for a third time in an environment like this.
Sure, Baylor's a top seed. They're really fun to compete against. As you guys can hear, their crowds are always really rowdy. They're a top team, and so we need to show out and come out and do, a really well executed meet to be able to, come out on top or have a really good fight against them.
So going into the second half, were there any changes yesterday that you made after seeing the scoring, or anything that maybe you're hoping to see change in your scores?
Sure. We kept our meet consistent for today. The main thing that we're looking at is just keeping our energy really high, having fun, and really just kind of keeping composure throughout the meet.
You know, my goal is that we execute a little bit tighter, a little bit sharper in these next couple of events. And, you know, in team event, coming out with a solid hit and making sure that everything's up in the air.
Of course. I feel like that's every coach's goal.
Exactly right.
But talk a little bit about yesterday, seeing Mary Hardin Baylor out there. What did that mean to see a Division III side stepping up to the national championship level like this?
Yeah, it was fantastic. You know, their coaching staff has done an amazing job with their program, and you know, I'm clapping for them. You know, even though we're competing against them, they've done a really fantastic job.
They did great,
and, you know, just excited to see the growth, and they're killing it. So I'm proud of them and excited.
Well, thank you so much for your time, as always. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Second half coming up here in the meantime. Why don't we take a look here into event number 4?
The fourth event is the toss event. In the toss event, you will see 4 athletes toss a teammate into the air. The teammate tossed into the air, known as a top, will execute a flip or twist before being caught. There are 3 heats in this event. The synchronized toss features 2 toss groups. These groups should look exactly alike and be in sync. The start value of the toss depends on the skills that the top executes in the air. Officials will be looking for height, the top's body position, and tight catches by the bases.
Event number 4 coming up here shortly between these two. You can see the Baylor fans there watching over as they have huddled up, waiting to advance into the second half of this one. And there you can see the scores for event 3.
And as we expected, you're seeing Baylor really get close to that 10.0 almost scoring, but those judges are seeing many different things. So you see them take a little bit more of that advantage, almost to about 3 points over Oregon.
Very much dialed in over there are the Baylor Bears.
And the second...
You can see the winner of this one will head into Gannon tomorrow. And man, the fatigue really has to catch up to you at some point there. That'll be the 3rd meet in 3 days for one of these sides.
And so you're seeing Baylor. They've had to compete at 7 p.m. last night, 7 p.m. tonight, and then tomorrow, again, not a 24-hour recovery period if they were to advance to the national championship, whereas Oregon had a little bit of more time, maybe a couple hours, so it's really not that much more. But really looking at those times, that recovery time, it is a lot to compete 3 meets in 3 days. So whatever team advances, kudos to them coming out day 2 very strong.
Not much time left here before the Ducks step out for their 450 salto of the toss. They should come in with a start value of 9-9. And yesterday's value was a 9.525 on the final score line.
So this is an event where Oregon has a small margin of start value difference. They come in 1/10 over Baylor because that last heat they're going to have a 10.0 start value, where Baylor's going to be a 9.9 all the way through, competing a couple different tosses.
Here comes Oregon. Definitely not the way they were hoping to get things underway.
So on tosses, they are one of the harder events to execute nearly perfect. And if one little piece feels funky, it's really hard to recover in the middle of that skill. So you're seeing a double twisting, backwards flipping flip. And she comes off the toss and gets stuck a little bit in an overarched position almost. So you see that shoulders out on that last little half. She gets stuck there. So it's hard for her to really finish that twist squared. And those bases, they don't have all the time in the world to catch her. So their main priority is to make sure they catch high. So you saw a little bit of a mess up there, but that'll affect the score definitely a little bit.
9-9 for a start value for the Bears. And 9.825 a day ago.
And I've talked a decent amount about number 9, Peyton Washington, because she is a freshman debuting in this sport this year. You're going to see her twice in the toss event for Baylor, and she is the primary top here in this first heat.
Waiting for their go-ahead. Moments away from that. I'm sure they can maybe sense a big opportunity in front of them there after a small error on the other side. Good teams will strike when that happens.
Especially having a little bit of a deficit in start value. You really want to capitalize on execution and try to outperform the other team so that that start value doesn't end up affecting you.
Must be taking a bit more time here to deliberate over that. And of course, there are 5 of them in the judging table, as we've said, so actually we take that back. Looks like they've come to a consensus, but might have took a little bit longer that time around.
Yes, and there's actually neutral penalties in our sport that it's really hard to see from a fan's eye. So that could have also played into it a little bit.
Break out the tape measure for the height, though.
And that's what you are looking for. You want to see full extension on the way up and then on the pull through. So you see her go up, she gets that height of skill. But what really sets her apart is when she pulls through for that cradle, making sure that she fully extends her body and gets those shoulders stacked on top of her toes so that her hips never pike at any point. So that's something that the officials are definitely going to be looking at, and that's going to set her score apart.
Synchronized coming up next for Oregon. Should check in with another 9.9, the 9.05 yesterday.
So in these synchronized toss heats, yes, the tops have to be identical. And when you're performing twists up to 720 degrees, it's really hard to make sure that they look the exact same. It's not an easy task. But then also making sure that the base's timing is on. So that's what we're really going to be looking at, making sure those bases fully extend through their fingers, through their wrists, through their legs, through their ankles. They have to jump off the ground. And you want to make sure that your timing is the exact same as the other toss group.
To think back to that meet between these two back in February, Oregon was really giving Baylor a run for their money after 4 events. But again, on shaky footing here in the 4th event.
Yeah, so again, you're going to see it again. She just really gets caught in that twist. So coming off the toss, maybe not getting that full extension from her bases. You see good timing from both groups, but there is going to be a deduction for that right group. On the left group, they did a great job really executing this skill. You're going to see a little bit of a dip on the catch, so that's going to be some extra movement from the bases, but really looking for strong bases at the bottom there, making sure they're not taking any additional steps, and if they do, that it's minimal.
On the opposite side for Baylor, another 9.9 start value and a 9.5 a day ago. As they wait for the go-ahead signal.
And this is always the part of the meet where, the energy can drop sometimes in the toss event because it is only one skill being executed. So
right.
You're seeing Baylor sideline, they know they need to keep their energy up because next we have the tumbling event, and you need all the energy in the world for that.
did a great job of that. Like you said, keeping that energy up and looking to keep the momentum moving.
So this synchronized toss, those tops want to be identical to each other. You want them to look the same, twist the same. You see a little bit of a difference in the two, just by height a tiny bit. And then the toss on the right with top Aaliyah Thomas, you see a little bit of a pike through on that catch, so she doesn't land fully extended. Those are small deductions that the officials are looking for. And in the toss event, you know, you're only competing one skill, but those officials, they are hard, especially at the national championship. So it is not common to see high scores in the toss event, even though you might think it is because it's one skill.
Start value of 10 for Oregon as they close out their portion of the fourth. It's a 9.675 in the books from a day ago.
And you're going to see Oregon compete a kick-back double here. So we've been seeing back doubles traditionally from these two teams. This top is going to add that kick and really set that start value up to that 10.0. We saw it earlier with Gannon, you know, competing with that kickback double. It's a really difficult skill to make sure that you execute properly. You're really looking for that extension on that kick leg, making sure that you're hitting at least a 45-degree angle, if not bigger, and then coming through, again, being in that extended body position, never breaking at the hips.
And here comes Oregon. Good effort there to find themselves back in the right spot after two rather shaky entrants there in the fourth.
Yes, so you're going to see that kick. Again, it's meant to be 45 degrees. You know, the judges are going to be looking at that there with a potential, you know, lack of kick. That could be a neutral penalty. I don't think they got it there looking at the officials' table. And you see on that angle, you see that 45-degree kick. That's what the officials, you know, their angle is really important and their judgment is really important. But it was a beautiful toss on the way through, a beautiful cradle, you know, strong catch there and good body lines from that top.
Group of fans there waiting to see which of these programs will be advancing to tomorrow. Will it be Oregon or will it be Baylor? Baylor hopes to keep their win streak going, have not dropped a contest since 2021. And that team in 2021 to accomplish that feat over on the other side, staring right back at them in Oregon. Here comes Baylor. 9-9 again, start value-wise at a 9.6 a day ago. Love the flare in the back there, too.
There was a lot of excitement for that toss, and I think it's important to note in the toss event, you can't compete three of the same tosses across the board. There has to be one toss that's a little bit different. So you're going to see a different skill set here, just like Oregon had a different skill set in this final heat.
Tumbling event coming up next here. Stay tuned on ESPN+. Great look there across Joe Retton Arena as we get ready for event number 5. In the meantime, let's take a deeper look as we wait for scores.
The fifth event is the tumbling event. This event has 6 heats. The first 3 are synchronized group tumbling passes, a duo, trio, and quad tumbling pass. The last 3 are individual tumbling passes. The start value of each heat are determined by the difficulty and combination of skills in each heat. Officials will be looking for body position, continuity of skills, and technique in each skill.
There you can see the crew watching over Baylor, right above them, actually. Both programs calling the state of Texas home. showing that in-state support. And there you can see the scores from our last event as Baylor straight down the list.
And we knew Oregon in those first two heats was they were gonna take a little bit of a hit with those cradle positions, but that open heat, they really capitalized on that skill, on that kickback double to give them a good jump there. But Baylor's gonna come in a little bit over 4 points ahead of Oregon going into the tumbling event.
Down the list here, looking at least for Oregon, just to kind of compare to where we're at. After the fourth event yesterday, they picked up a 28-5, so down to a 27-2. You can kind of see just how much that affected where we are. Always room for comparison.
Of course, and we saw earlier in the matchup today that even if you go into the tumbling event and team routine with an edge, even if you come in ahead, it always doesn't end up working out that way.
The duo now for the Ducks, it's Mallory Kent, number 30, and Rachel Furlong, number 18. Start of 10 and a 9:05 yesterday. I definitely think this is going to be a spot for them to start working their way back up as they came off in great shape.
And they're excited about that one. You know, in the tumbling event, you're looking for acceleration, for speed, for power. You never want the athlete to slow down. And I think Oregon did a really good job making sure they not only maintained their acceleration, but they continue to create it. On that punch front, you're looking for height of skill, full and a half, full at the end. Same exact thing with those two skills. You want to see the height and the amplitude happen, and they did a good job executing. There's going to be synchronization deductions, and nearly every time in these duo, trio, and quad passes, there are synchronization deductions.
There you can see the pair for Baylor. That's Emily Bott and Kristen McLean, 7-1, the freshman duo. Start value of 10, and they picked up a 9.225 yesterday.
And these are two athletes that come from an all-star cheerleading background. So they really get to capitalize on that tumbling piece here in the tumbling event.
We'll be moving from left to right here. On that far side there and able to do so.
Yeah, so you're going to see her bobble a little bit on that landing. She'll get a little bit of an over rotation. But looking at that whip punch Arabian tuck, you have to go from an extended skill that's really a little bit lower to the ground, and you have to punch up to that Arabian and still get the proper height of skill, but then be able to tumble out of it quickly with fast acceleration. You know, they look very identical to each other. You'll see them, they, go diagonal, so that's a little bit of a deviation deduction. And whether the judges can see that from the front or not, they know what they're looking for.
Trio now for Oregon. It'll be Kaylee Barrera, number 40, Raquel Henderson, number 4, and Alexis Giordina, number 29.
And I know in the past we've seen Raquel Henderson really, be the claim to fame on some whips. So we're really on those whips looking for feet together, making sure that there's no squatting through the whip. So you want to have extended legs throughout the entire whip, even when your feet hit the ground. So you don't want to see a lot of break in the hips. You don't want to see a lot of absorption into the ground, making sure we're fast and we're punching fast against the ground.
The 9.45 yesterday for this trio.
This is a trio. They always look identical to each other. So I'm hopeful that they're going to see that again.
A lot of momentum up there towards the top.
They were fast, and that's what you want to see, especially with 3 whips. It is hard to keep accelerating and to not let your body slow down, and they all did that. You see on the landing a little bit on that middle athlete, you're going to see that she under twists almost, but at the very end squares her hips and lands strong. So minor deductions there, but their synchronization was on point.
Over to Baylor coming up next. We'll see what the Bears have in store. As this 1 versus 4 in semifinal action has been all that we could have asked for, and it looks like out there for the Bears, it's going to be Peyton Washington, number 9, Aaliyah Kalusti at number 54, as well as Aaliyah Thomas, number 20. Freshman, junior, and sophomore.
You can tell they're ready, you can tell they're excited. But look at the crowd. I think it's so unique that this sport is still growing, but every year at the national championship, you see such a huge fan base, and what's not to love about this sport?
Trio for the Bears was a 9.125 a day ago.
When we look at these start values, to start at a 10.0, it is hard. You have to be able to connect hard skills together. So whether that's 2 punching skills connected, you know, landing in a full and a half, you know, different elements of twisting throughout the pass and stepping out, it's not easy to start at that 10.0 start value.
Walk me through that reaction on your face right now.
I know these 3 athletes. I watch them. You know, I'm a big fan of acro, so I'm watching every team. But that is one of their best trio passes together. They were identical. They were in sync. And they maintained acceleration the entire way through. What's really important on that last skill, that full twisting landing, is maintaining an extended body position and never piking at the hips. So I think they'll be rewarded for that pass.
Back for Oregon as the quad will get set to kick off here. Looks like it'll be Riley Watson, number 17, Makio, number 25, Camille Mantovani, number 43, and Katie Coe, number 46. Keo, excuse me.
And here we're going to see, you know, a little bit of an older, older athletes with 1 junior and
that's
3
seniors out there.
So they're experienced. They know what they're doing. They're reliable. There's a reason that they're in this quad pass, you know, which is the hardest out of the tumbling passes to synchronize and to get a high start value out of.
This was an 8.6 a day ago. Quad in the books now for Oregon.
And that was a really well synchronized pass. You're seeing Oregon compete a lot of whip skills, and they're doing a good job of pulling their feet through after that whip to go into that back handspring and stay in an extended position through their hips. So you don't want to see that break, and you see they're fast out of that. Their hips are extended to make it easier to tumble into that full and a half. Very controlled landings, you know, on the full and a half landing, you're really looking to make sure that you're not taking a large step forward and that you're showing control and maintaining control while taking that step that is declared. So that step at the end, you know, the 1 is declared, it is not a deduction, but if you were to take an additional step, then that would be a deduction. But Oregon did an awesome job executing there.
squad coming up now for the Baylor Bears. Allie Joswick, number 17, Gabby Kaminsky, number 3, Raquel Jeffries, number 51, and Galen Hopkins, number 29. Don't see this very often. A pair of freshmen out there.
And we're going to see them have a little bit of a start value jump here, 0.15 on Oregon, but that's the only pass that they are not at level with.
This was an 8-7 a day ago. They come with another great addition.
So on that punch front, you're looking for height of skill, and same on the full and a half. So not only are we looking to be synchronized, but to make sure that everything has high amplitude. And all of the athletes really showed amplitude, but they showed control on their landing. So both teams really are neck and neck, especially after these tumbling passes in my book.
And we get to really focus in just a bit more. Maybe that guy there is taking a look at the NCATA.org. Maybe he needs to get himself some information. There's plenty of great stuff to be found there if you head on through. You can find them on social media as well at the NCATA.
And not only can you find, current scores, keeping track of the championship, but any parents or prospective student athletes or potential coaches even that are, interested about the sport, that's really where you can find all the information, how to get recruited, what schools sponsor the sport, what division those schools are, and finding that really good fit for you.
This is Kaylee Barrera, number 40. She'll be in charge here for the Ducks.
And she's been a strong tumbler for them throughout her entire career.
With a 9-6 yesterday. And there she is.
And so I talked about accelerating through the entire pass. So I think that's what the judges are going to catch is she slows down a little bit in the middle, but then she catches her speed and executes a beautiful 1.5 at the end. You see that punch front, she gets that good height of skill. Same with the full 1.5, great height on that skill. Good control on the landing. Again, that's a huge piece of landing in that full 1.5, maintaining control and not taking those extra steps.
The answer will come from Savannah Cecil, number 31. There she is over there towards your right. Out of Crossville, Tennessee, the sophomore. Coming in here in trampoline and tumbling. That's the background that she comes out of. And I'm going to talk about how multiple sports such as that, like trampoline and tumbling, taking her to different places across the list. A very interesting bio here, making her way across the world for gymnastics in places such as Bulgaria, Russia, Spain, Azerbaijan, all over. And was even a math tutor in her spare time.
And that's one of the most unique pieces of our sport, is seeing all these skill set, and you're going to see where she came from with that tumbling background.
A 9.75 yesterday. One of the things yesterday about the way that she executed this was just how fast she moves across the mat.
And
if you're watching this isn't sped up replay-wise. That was actual speed.
And there's no spring on this floor. So she comes from a background with trampoline and tumbling where there's a rod floor under you, which is additional spring versus an artistic gymnastics floor or cheerleading floor. You see in those whips, you saw the extension through her hips the entire way through. Her hips never broke, maintaining good body positions. But I think what really stood out was the height of the full 1.5.
Next up for the Ducks in the 6 element, it's Rachel Furlong, number 18, getting the call here. The junior from Worcester, Ohio.
And Rachel has also been a really strong tumbler for Oregon throughout her career, and I'm sure she's excited to take next year, her senior year, by storm.
Coming from a gymnastics background, what she has out of Ohio. Placed third and all around at the 2020 state championships, finishing in the top 10 in all 4 events. Also had a top 5 finish on the beam in 2019 state championships. Was a floor champion at the 2020 Atlantis Crown Invitational.
And being a floor champion, that makes sense why her tumbling has really translated well to this sport.
See a lot of approval from you there.
I'm nodding my head yes, because she executed this really well. You know, you see the height of skill on all 3 of that punch front, the full and a half, and then up to that full. But I think what really stands out to me is her ability to be able to connect quickly and to continue to accelerate. And then her body position on that full at the very end. You know, in the full and a half, you have to worry about control of landing, but in that full, when you land there, you have to worry about the body position. So making sure that your shoulders don't land too far forward, that your hips are under your ankles, and that you land extended. And that's really what the judges are going to be looking for. So she had a great example of that.
Emily Bott, number 7, will be on the opposite side for Baylor, the freshman from East Slip, New York. And there she is. Right state of mind, I would say, there for the freshman. Part of cheer as a background here with the Long Island Cheer Diamonds. A couple members of Frostburg State there. That's Abby Baker on your left, enjoying the weekend. Level 6 senior NCAA champion getting ready to make her way across here. With a 9.625 yesterday, and I think that's another addition that will be close to that, if not better.
So you're looking at that height of the Arabian. She does a really good job setting up for that and then maintaining speed out of it. On that full and a half, you also want to see the height of skill, squeezing those feet together, squeezing those knees together. You know, you're going to see a little bit of maybe some deviation, but for the most part, she was on a straight path and really accelerated there throughout the entire pass.
Raquel Henderson, number 4, next up for Oregon as we get ready for the Open. Out of Katy, Texas, so going up against a prolific home state program is Henderson. Part of the 6-element tumbling pass individual event national champion squad from Oregon last year. Coming from a tumbling background.
I think we're going to see her do some whips here.
She was a Best Tumbler Award winner at Power Tumbling Nationals before she made her way to Oregon. This was a 9.65 yesterday. See you straight on through here again. Great look at this one.
Yes, and very well executed. You know, there's a lot of strategy to the angles that you put your athletes at as a coach. So you can have them tumble out of the corner or you can have them tumble from the side. And, you know, with Raquel here, you see a little bit of feet apart on our view that we get to see, but those judges really don't see that. So it's pretty hidden. Other than that, it was such a well-executed pass. Very powerful whips all the way through to a high full and a half.
Last call here for event number 5, and Peyton Washington answers it for the Open for the Bears, the freshman from Round Rock, Texas.
and you can see these Baylor fans, they're excited, they're hopeful. It's always such a good matchup between these two teams every single year.
Four-time All-Star World silver medalist is Peyton Washington. 10-time NCAA champion. Excellent.
So on this pass, you want to see extension all the way through. She has to extend 3 different times coming out of that front tuck, that full and a half, and then through to that full. And you see she over-exaggerates it a little bit on that landing there, trying to control it, but almost landing short because she tried to, but it was still such a beautiful pass.
The big team event coming up next. We'll find out who will advance to the national championship on ESPN+. One more event stands in between finding out who will be the winner and advancing to the national championship. And that event is the team event. Let's learn a bit more.
The 6th event is the team event. This event encompasses everything you just watched in the first 5 events. The team event features up to 24 athletes on the floor at one time, performing skills in acro, toss, pyramid, and tumbling in a routine set to music. Key items for officials to evaluate include synchronization of skills, stability of the structures, body position, and technique of the tumbling. This is a very fast-paced event, so be sure to keep your eyes on the mat.
Looks like our Event 5 scores have been finalized. You'll get a better sense of what kind of a margin we'll be dealing with here heading into the team event. And there you can break it down a bit more. 182 to 176 as small win there for Oregon in the 6th element for a 9.75.
And you see throughout, you know, definitely in that duo pass, in that 6th element pass coming out with the win in that open pass, really, they didn't have too much of a margin against Baylor. So Oregon did a really good job executing in that entire tumbling event, you know, hoping to pull for that team routine. And as we saw earlier today, you know, it's never over until it's over. So Oregon has a big chance here to take team routine by storm and hit hard.
Starting to get their sense here of where they're at, Oregon-wise, and what they'll need to accomplish. They will step in for a start value for the final team event of around 107. And yesterday's performance led them in 83.57. They're actually bested by Mary Hardin-Baylor yesterday by a point.
So they'll be looking to improve some things in team routine. You know, Coach Taylor Susanara, she touched on that, really wanting to make sure that they execute cleanly and execute well. So we're hoping to see that.
107.86, their start value. Let's see if they can best their mark again yesterday of 83.57.
Synchronized passes there at the beginning with running, tumbling. They all want to be identical, and they look like it to me. And I'm assuming that this is their synchronized acro sequence in the middle, having at least 4 groups competing the same 3-sequence skill set. Very well executed, very well timed. During running, tumbling, you're going to look to see every athlete land on the mat, for nobody to land off of it, and so far, so good. And that was very clean, a good running, tumbling sequence. And actually, I may have lied. This might actually be their synchronized sequence. I don't know, but there is that requirement. Very clean, very solid from all of those bases and tops. Not a lot of extra movement. And again, very clean running, tumbling sequence. Execution deductions, a little bit there, here and there, but they did a great job finishing. And then you see those back double tosses, and they are excited.
Really synchronized there, and it just looks fantastic.
It does.
Spread out like that.
They are excited right now going into this pyramid sequence. We saw this earlier with Gannon, competing 4 bridge pyramids at the same exact time. These pyramids are really difficult to execute, so to have 4 groups going, it's hard. And so far, so good. Wow. Awesome job there. See those full standing tucks all throughout this event. It is hard to do those multiple times. We're gonna look for clean tosses all the way through, and what a great team routine for Oregon.
You like the split focus there towards the end of having different things to really take in.
And that's where the judges come into play. They scout out this team routine actually during the warm-up. There's a mandatory walkthrough that teams must go through so the judges can split up and make sure that they, figure out who's watching what.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yes. With 5 judges, it's a little bit easier. But you see here on the replay, again, I said that was such a clean acro sequence, and it was. They did an awesome job really focusing on team routine, executing cleanly as Coach Susanera wanted them to, and, not taking team routine for granted.
Look there up close, and you can just see the high-flying action all across.
And Baylor going into this, they know that that was a clean team routine. They know that was a hit team routine. And if they want to win there, they got to execute. And they're going to have to finish out this meet strong as well. You saw maybe 1 step off on the tumbling pass earlier on that left side. That's a small deduction, but in general, her pass was beautiful. And then you see these pyramids, strongly executed. Not a lot of deductions there.
Might have been a little worried there underneath, perhaps.
A little bit of balance, and I think I saw the base's feet were a little bit far down on the bridge's legs, so a lot of balance that goes into that.
Next up, it will be Baylor, as we are just one portion away from finding out who will meet Gannon tomorrow in the national championship. Gannon, of course, defeating Quinnipiac earlier today, if you just happen to be tuning in. But 54 teams as of April 2024, and LaSalle on the way in 2025.
So right now, there's 12 teams in the recruiting process. So that means that there's 12 teams looking to fill their roster for at least 18 to 24 athletes, if not more. So I think that's really important to note, that this sport is growing rapidly. It's growing fast. And the recruits and the prospective student athletes that we're looking for, they have an opportunity to compete at the collegiate level after, whether it's club gymnastics, high school gymnastics. You see this youth acrobatics and tumbling. This sport is growing, and so many different skill sets are going into this.
We talk about the emerging sports category. 40 teams, like you said, need at least 18 members, and I think at the bottom there, 6 or more meets. That's the important one.
And so in our meet format, you can compete, at minimum of 6 times a year, but you end up competing typically more than that, especially if you're in a conference championship, the Division III tournament, or this NCATA championship. But you can schedule up to 12 meets throughout the regular season, and most teams are trying to.
This is a Baylor, or I should say Oregon, excuse me here. They are 4-3 in terms of just looking at the way that their schedules break down. And like Baylor, for example, taking on 9 contests this year.
Yes, so it's to every coach's discretion. really how many meets they want to take on. If you're heavy with freshmen, you might want to really get them out on the mat a lot of times before coming to this national championship tournament. Whereas if you have a little bit of an older team, you know that they might not need, a lot of reps and a lot of meets to get that experience and to be confident going into the tournament.
Now we talk Baylor in terms of the way that they will be stepping out. A start value of 108.27 for the Bears, and yesterday's performance over Fairmont State was an 88-7-2 for a final score. Let's see what they bring to the mat now.
You see 3 of those standing pulls, standing tucks right off the bat. And then you're going to see 3 different groups competing different acro sequences. So on the right and the left, all 7 groups are competing that same one-man sequence. And then in the middle there, we have 2 different sequences happening at the same time. And wow, that was impressive. So far, so good on the mat and tumbling, but I did see a little error, I believe. I'm not going to say it yet, but I'll look at that replay and let you guys know.
Good little feature coming up here towards the middle. Take this in again.
And even with this skill set, they still don't max out in the acro and team event. So that tells you how hard it is to max out in team routine in these different sections. So how impressive is that? And then you see these standing full standing tucks to the left. There's a lot of them. It's so impressive to see those skills happening again. And then 4 of them go again back to back. Again, finishing those tosses all the way through. Definitely some execution stuff that those officials are going to take on those, but they were still strong at the very end. So you see a little bit of a fall there. Depending on where that fall happens, there's different deductions that come into play.
Right.
Those were the 2 synchronized pyramids, so that'll play a little bit of a role in how those deductions will be applied since they were supposed to be identical.
We'll see if that affects the rest of this here.
They know they're going to need to bring their energy, that's for sure. Hoping to see everybody stay on the mat, finish all of their skills strong. So far, so good.
Able to close out there on the right foot, but now it's just a matter of, I like to call it calculator math, and how that's going to affect the end of this one.
So Baylor going into this had a little over a 6-point advantage, and then they have almost a half a point advantage in start value. So as we see the scores and those final scores as they're calculated, we're going to have to take that into account, that they have that jump. But Oregon hit a really clean team routine, and Baylor had some mistakes, and we saw that earlier. It can change the outcome of the meet. It'll really affect that final score. So we'll end up seeing it's always exciting. It always comes down to the wire with these 2 teams.
Plenty of great looks as we recap the team event from Baylor. Now it just comes down to 2 entries on the score sheet to find out who advances to the national championship against Gannett tomorrow. Always great to watch that twice.
And that is a strong acro sequence, looking for strong standing tumbling.
We'll find out who wins when we come back here on ESPN+. We await the winner here as the team event scores are tallied, one of these two will advance to take on Gannon, who defeated Quinnipiac earlier today in the first semifinal. The Golden Knights returning to the championship for the first time since 2022. We'll get to see the winner place that mark on the board here when those scores do make their way in. And after a couple of mishaps, perhaps, from Baylor, they could see something happening to them that perhaps, well, hasn't happened since 2021.
Yeah, so it's definitely, you know, very emotional meet. It's always going to be an emotional meet. And the music just cued. It got low, and then it got loud again. So I think they were...
Bit of a pump fake there, huh?
They were ready for the scores. And I know that feeling. They want to know who advances. They want to know who's going to be competing in day 3 tomorrow against Gannon University. I think the big thing knowing these team routine scores is looking at the different neutral penalties, but execution as well.
They await their fate.
For the team event, Oregon with a score of 84.02. Baylor with a score of 85.58.
And they can tell as their streak continues as they dash on forward to the national championship, 268 to 260. We really weren't sure how much of a deduction we were going to see in terms of the way that things played out for the Bears.
And it comes down to those neutral penalties, but also the execution and making sure, you know, every piece of that team routine is clean all the way through and flawless in all of its execution.
And I will say the word dynasty, 9 straight national championship appearances for the Baylor Bears as they advance to take on Gannon. Great show of sportsmanship there. Just a bit short there for the Ducks as their season comes to a close, but you will see that Baylor logo slapped on the board here.
And you see senior Riley Chimwala. She's had such a big impact on this program throughout all 4 years. So you see her.
Oh, not there yet. I like the mindset, but you don't want to go in the middle yet. 9 straight NCATA championship appearances for the Baylor Bears.
And they've been there many times, so they're going to be comfortable tomorrow. It'll be their first time for their freshmen, so their freshmen are definitely going to step up, hopefully, as they take on Gannon, who was just there a couple years ago as well.
That was 2022, the last time for Gannon. That matchup coming to you tomorrow. There you can see on the 27th, 5 p.m., Baylor and Gannon, 1 versus 3. The Golden Knights and the Bears. For Aaliyah Stark, I've been Colin Kirkwood saying so long here from Fairmont, West Virginia, with the final score 268 to 260. All NCATA National Championship competitions are streaming live and are archived on ESPN+. This has been a presentation of ESPN.